What if I told you that life isn't real? And that there is no such thing as free will? And that we are all just pawns being controlled by a single mastermind? We are living in a simulation, and the signs are obvious. Yes, that's right. We are living in a simulation controlled by just one mastermind. Recently, I have been shown the way, and I have come to the ultimate conclusion that we are all just living in a manga.
Wake up, guys!
I mean, come on, it's obvious, folks. Have you seen the news recently? All that shit is only something that a twisted manga creator would come up with and subject our poor souls to. We are all just characters in one creator's manga, unable to do anything other than what they command. Oh, but not me. I've been shown the way, and I hope that today's manga review will also be able to help you understand and unlock all the secrets of the universe. So, without further ado, let me show you the truth. Satoshi Kon was born in Sapporo on October 12, 1963. From a young age, he wanted to be an animator, but it was very difficult to break into the industry. So while studying at Mashino Art University, he began creating manga instead. His first published work was a two-part sci-fi manga titled Toriko, and no, it's not that Toriko that you're thinking of. Kon's Toriko was published in 1987, and even got second place at the Tetsuya Shiba Awards, held by Young Magazine. He then became the assistant of Katsuhiro Otomo, working on Akira, while publishing his own short story manga. It was thanks in part to Otomo that Satoshi got to work with animation for the first time, when he was made a background designer and key animator for Rojin Z. From there, he continued to publish manga such as 1990's Tropic of the Sea, and a manga adaptation of 1991's World Apartment Horror. But again, it's with the animation industry that Satoshi has left his biggest mark. He was the director of such legendary films as Perfect Blue, Paprika, and he even directed episode 5 of the 1993 JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVA. Oh, hell yeah! He was also the creator of Tokyo Godfathers, Paranoia Agents, and Millennium Actress. Unfortunately, however, his life would be cut short due to pancreatic cancer, and he would die on August 24, 2010, at the age of 46. Opus came out just before his big break in the anime industry. It ran in Comic Guys magazine from October 1995 to June 1996, when it was put on hiatus due to Satoshi wanting to focus on directing Perfect Blue. The manga would never be finished, but shortly after his tragic passing in 2010, rough layouts for another chapter were discovered, which has been included in the edition of the manga I read, which was the 2014 edition published by Dark Horse, translated by Zach Davison. Opus tells the story of a manga artist named Chikara Nagai, who is currently in the process of creating the final chapter of his manga titled Resonance. Resonance itself is a manga about an investigator named Satoko Mirai, who has telepathic abilities and is fighting against the leader of a cult named The Mask, who uses mind control on his followers. Satoko is joined in her fight by an Esper named Lin, who Chikara plans to have defeat the mask, but in the process, Lin will die. This ending has been approved by his editor, but while drawing the final scene with Lin dying, Lin steals the page, and Chikara gets sucked into the world of his own manga. After being sucked into the world of resonance, Chikara ends up coming into contact with Satoko, where she learns that she is just a character in a manga. The two then go in search of Lin, who has stolen the final page, but meanwhile, the mask uses his mind control powers to take control of Satoko's chief, Hanamura, who uses special forces in order to chase after the two. Satoko and Chikara end up tracking down Lin, but he's also been discovered by the mask and the chief, and they all begin to fight in the white spaces outside the boundaries of the manga panels. In the fight that ensues, the world begins to crack, and Satoko is shot by the chief. But then, Chikara falls through a crack, ending up back into his own world. Chikara, wondering if this was a dream or not, realizes that the final page is, in fact, missing, and with a deadline hanging over him to complete the manga, he has to redraw it. But he just isn't able to do so. So, will Chikara be able to finish his manga? And what about Satoko and the other characters of Resonance? Are they going to be alright? You're just going to have to read it to find out. Well, actually, none of these answers are really going to be answered because, unfortunately, this manga is unfinished. Starting with the art, the style of it really reminds me of Katsura Otomo, which makes sense considering that Satoshi was once an assistant of him and worked on many projects with him. The art has this realistic sort of look and it's a bit grimy, which I really like. Speaking of which, this quality can also be found in the character designs, which I enjoyed as well. I especially enjoy the designs of the city whenever Chikara is in the world of Resonance. The designs of the world are all very dystopian looking and the detail he puts into them is absolutely wonderful. He also puts a lot of detail and special care into depicting physical impacts, and the way he draws and composes rubble is also really great. I also want to mention this scene where the mask that Chikara is wearing turns on. I absolutely love the creativity of depicting the wild ride he goes on in that scene in particular. The art in this sequence is stunning and beautifully done. If you've seen any of Satoshi Kon's other works, then this sequence is very much in his style, being a trippy and intense moment. When it comes to the story, it's extremely creative, very meta, and very much feels like Satoshi Kon's work. The actual concept of the story was full of potential and it was highly interesting. Some of the reasons for why this manga ended up being so interesting comes in part from the actual fictional story of Resonance, which in of itself was also highly interesting. Getting into the characters, they were one of the strongest aspects of this manga, and I really enjoyed them. Chikara was a funny character to watch interact with his world, and his personality really helped to add humor to the manga. Speaking of which, I really enjoyed this mix of drama and comedy that fills the pages. Getting back into the characters, I felt that Lin was a very relatable and understandable character. I can really understand Lin and why he does what he does in the manga, due to the fact that he is ultimately fighting for his life. The mask made for a pretty interesting villain, though he wasn't actually in the manga too much. I just felt that his character had a lot of potential and was really being built up to be a wonderful main villain. But the manga ended before we could really see him get there. Finally, I want to mention Satoko, who I felt was just an okay character. There's not really much I have to say about her other than that she was a pretty understandable character as well. Satoko just gets told that she has been basically a puppet her entire life in order to entertain others, which made for a very good character moment within the story. It also helps to really explain some of her actions later on. I also wanted to mention the final unfinished chapter of the manga, which I absolutely loved. Though it may not have been intended to be the official end to the series, I personally felt that it made for a very fitting end in a lot of ways. Without giving away any spoilers, the final chapter is just incredibly meta and fits perfectly within the canon of Satoshi Kon's work and the world of Opus. Overall, there really aren't any problems that I have with Opus. It's just a bit challenging to really review due to its unfinished status. It ends just as it was really getting good, though what we do have here is just fine, I think. Opus was the final manga from a legendary creator, and it is truly a tragedy that it will never be completed. Khan considered this manga to be a failure, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm going to give Opus by Satoshi Kon an 8 out of 10. And now that your mind has been surely opened and crimson pilled, what are you going to do? I would recommend checking out this manga. It really is a great work from a fantastic creator. Anyway, I hope you agreed with what I had to say about Satoshi Kon's Opus. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you around here again real soon. Goodbye.